Call the meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Burke County Board of Commissioners pre-agenda meeting for Tuesday, November 7th, held here in the chambers at 3 p.m. I would like to let Madam Clerk know that Commissioner Smith is in attendance. Commissioner Burns is not in attendance today. He is at a Western Piedmont Council of Governments convention representing Burke County, so he does have an excused absence, Madam Clerk. We do have Vice Chair Britton, we have Commissioner Carswell, we also have our County Finance Officer, our County Attorney, and our County Manager, Madam Clerk. I would remind everyone to please silence their mobile devices, and as you come forward to speak at the lectern, please activate the microphone as denoted by the red that will show up so we all can hear you talk, not only here in the chambers and on YouTube, please. So gentlemen, that'll bring us to our first item of business, approval of agenda. The agenda was previously sent out and reviewed. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve the agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Britton. All those in favor signify with uplifted hand. Madam Clerk, that carries 4-0. That'll move us to presentations. Gentlemen, we first have our pet of the month. This will be presented by Madam Clerk Kay Drong. Put her to work immediately. While Kay's getting some information together, as you know, gentlemen, and I know many of you out in the audience and on YouTube, Animal Services had a major event this past week, and it was hugely successful, so I can't wait to hear a little bit about it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Caitlin is out of town today, and I am substituting for her. We will present a dog and cat in need of its forever home at the regular meeting, and this is a placeholder. I am pleased to report that the Jordan's Way Facebook fundraiser held last Thursday from 10 to 1 raised approximately $9,583, and if enough contributions come in to get us over the $10,000 mark, I believe the animal control officers have to shave their legs.
So it sounds like we need $417 to make that happen.
Yes,
And so,
thereabouts.
Gentlemen, ladies out in the audience, just think about that. This will be a live event. We will see this online.
I'm sure somebody will record it.
Okay.
And I'd like to thank
Whether we want to see it or not.
Right. I'd like to thank County Manager Epley for coming down and being a good sport and participating in one of our crazy events. And I would defer to him to let him comment on that if he wants to. But we're so appreciative. It was a great day, and we thank everybody that pitched in some way or contributed.
Gentlemen, questions, comments? Johnny, you were in doggy jail there for a little while, were you not?
I was afraid somebody wasn't going to get me out.
And Commissioner Burns was in doggy jail. Then I think our county manager, somebody's been wanting to egg him for a while apparently, so he took 3 eggs upside the head. So no pain, no pain. So any other questions, comments, gentlemen? Wonderful job as always, Kay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, gentlemen, without objection, this item will remain on the agenda under presentations. This will bring us to item number 2, proclamation declaring November 28th as One Burke Cares Day in Burke County. And this will be presented by Alan Wood, snuck in the back door just in time.
I always want to be just in time and not late. Whoops. So this will be year 4 of our Day of Giving, November the 28th. I think this year we have 34 nonprofits that have agreed to or who want to participate. United Way does fund this, so it is no charge to all the nonprofits that are participating. The nonprofits raised a little over $100,000 last year. We're hoping to exceed that. Why this is so important is these nonprofits help defray a lot of costs that the county or other agencies would thereby have to take responsibility for if, for instance, we support Animal Services to be one of the nonprofits that's participating, so it helps defray those costs and expenses. United Way in particular is working towards helping Youth Success. We cover some daycare expenses there. And we also are doing some financial coaching that we've just started. So all these things across the board are very, very important to the folks in our community. And we really do appreciate your support on this.
Thank you, Alan. Gentlemen, questions, comments? I know we're all very familiar with what a good job y'all do. All right, thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, without objection, this item will remain under, on the agenda under presentations. That'll bring us to item number 3 under presentations, Blue Ridge Community Action Update and FY 24-25 CSBG application presented by Aaron Smith, the Blue Ridge Community Action Community Services Director. Did I get it all right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Erin Smith. I'm here from Blue Ridge Community Action, and we are in the process of applying for the Community Service Block Grant. We receive this grant each year to provide services in Burke, Caldwell, and Rutherford counties to move families out of poverty and into self-sufficiency. We'll have a PowerPoint for you on the day of presentation that will go through all of the services that Blue Ridge Community Action offers, but we'll be focusing on the Community Service Block Grant.
Thank you, Aaron. Gentlemen, questions, comments? I don't believe we have any at this time. Thank you. We'll see you at the regular meeting. Gentlemen, without objection, this item will remain on the agenda under presentations. This will bring us to item number 4, TDA financial update for the period ending June 30th and September 30th, 2023, presented by our good friend Ed Phelps, Tourism Director.
We made it through October. It was a crazy month at the Visitor Center. We have moved. We moved on October the 9th, and it's just been a busy month with our fall color tours on our trolley. If you saw our trolley running around, we did 14 fall color tours this year for 280 passengers. We did private tours and public tours that we sold tickets online. Came from all over North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia. It was a banner year for that. So I just wanted to mention that because it's part of what we do is operating the trolley and bringing people to Burke County utilizing our beautiful fall colors, which, it was an interesting October for that. They started out strong and we thought we were going to lose them for a little bit of rain, and then it didn't rain, and then the drought hit, and now they're falling off as fast as they can. So it's essentially over. One of the things I want to talk about, this will be in your final packet as well, that visitor impact, the 2022 visitor impact. So every year we get from the state and the federal government the visitor spending in Burke County. It's always about 8 months, so it came out in August. And in 2022, visitors in Burke County spent $133.75 million. That was an increase of the previous year by 10.3%. That's also important, the 10.3%, because I want to share with you that all of our neighboring counties grew less than that, significantly less than that, except for Catawba. Catawba grew substantially last year in 2022 because they had dropped so much during COVID and post-COVID by losing a lot of conferences and conventions and meetings over there. So last year that grew substantially. But we grew 10.3% last year, and tourism is still a strong industry in the region. We also have a report that we have 850, a little more than 850 direct employees in Burke County in the tourism industry. The total payroll was $29.4 million in 2022, and about $4.1 million in local taxes were generated from sales and property tax revenue from travel-generated and travel-supported businesses. Everybody always wants to know about vacation rentals, and we believe right now we're getting ready to do another internal audit of how many there are in Burke County. And, that's been a hot topic in previous years about growth and management and all that. But right now we believe there's about 200, and that's grown double in the last 4 years, from around 125 to 200-ish. So sometimes they're difficult to track and count, because some of them will change names. It'd be the same place, but somebody says, oh, I got a little better name I want to come up with to try to market themselves. So, but we do have roughly 200 that, and we're going to be counting, and hopefully by the meeting at the end of the month, I'll have an accurate number for exactly how many those are. Looking at our financials for the year, and I think, Kay, are they going to pull those up back there? No? Okay. So this was to June 30th, and we're also going to have, our audit was just completed and was sent to the LGC, and that's all been approved, and we paid that final bill for our audit. And so we're going to have an updated financial report for you guys as well. But we finished the fiscal year with more revenues than expenditures of $105,693. And on a budget, a final budget of $972,000. And again, you're not going to see that on that report right there, but we will get that to you updated. So we almost had $1 million budget. And just 5 years ago, we had a $500,000 budget. So occupancy at our hotels is up, the average daily rate is up, and more jobs than ever in hospitality and tourism in Burke County. For the first quarter of this fiscal year, we have collected $93,000 in occupancy tax so far, and that was for July. So the July numbers are we're always 2 months behind in reporting. So through September 30th, we've collected $93,000. For last July, that's a little bit down, just a few percentage points, nothing to be concerned about on my end or your end. But, you know, we had tremendous growth in 2021, 2022, and now 2023 is kind of leveled back off to where we should be in Burke County in tourism. We have a strong balance. As of September 30th, we had $823,000 in the bank. Some of that is payable to the city of Morganton and the town of Valdez. And so it's a liability drawdown of about $222,714. So we're still in good financial shape, strong organization. Appreciate Scott's leadership in that. And I'll entertain any questions. I know it's a lot to kind of dissect, and we will have some financial updates for you by the next meeting.
Thank you, Ed. Gentlemen, questions, comments? Wonderful report as always. Ed, thank you. Then, without objection, gentlemen, this item will remain on the agenda under presentations. That'll bring us to our friend Corey Fisher-Wellman, presentation of department highlights for DSS. How are you, Corey?
Good, how are you guys? So, I'm supposed to be sharing good news about our department. So in a couple of weeks, I'll do a little bit more thorough presentation, but I'm going to talk about our Christmas Wishes program. So just a little bit about, Christmas is a difficult time for kids who are experiencing foster care. So I think this is the third year we've done it where we try to, through community donors, get something to give to all 200 kids in care. So far we have about 264 donors. That includes people at county departments, businesses in the county, individuals. So I think that says something about the community that we were able to get that much support. But I think there's still a little bit of need. If anyone was interested about the need, I think we still have some need for our 18 to 21 year olds. I think most of that we're asking for gift cards. And we're also doing a similar thing we have about 90 adult wards that we're also trying to get some type of Christmas gift for. And there's some flyers that are included in your packet that give contact information, but I'll have some more information, just kind of the overall scope of the project. I think gifts have to be coming back to us by November 15th. So by the time we meet in 2 weeks, we should be covered up in Christmas gifts for these young folks. So happy to answer any questions you guys have. If not, see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Corey. Gentlemen, questions, comments? Everybody's doing such a good job. No questions today.
Thank
Well,
y'all.
thank you. See you in 2 weeks. Without objection, gentlemen, this item will remain on the agenda under presentations. That will bring us to scheduled public hearings. Item number 1, community development, zoning map amendment ZMA 2023-08, and public hearing presented by our good friend Alan Glines, Deputy County Manager, Planning Director.
Good afternoon. I feel like I haven't seen you all in a while. We do have 2 rezoning requests that folks are asking you all to consider. This first one is Ashkenazic Investments, located just off of exit 107 in Drexel there. They have some land, they want to rezone approximately 6.84 acres of land that front on Morganton Furniture Road. These are the properties here in the aerial map. That was one large tract that was recently subdivided, and now it's the frontage areas that they're seeking to get rezoned. There is a very small street, Cleet York Road, that forms a boundary right here. So they're kind of seeking to rezone the area in front of Cleet York Road, which serves some residential areas here, and then this larger tract here on the I-40 ramp, basically. And this is Morganton Furniture Road. We're going to zone it. This is the current zoning map. You can see the parcels here are zone residential currently, and right across the street from industrial tracts there. What I'd say is when you look at the whole neighborhood as a whole, you know, like what's going up and down Drexel Road in this area, we've got a large variety of different residential and non-residential uses, including general business and the industrial uses there. The next map is the future land use map. If we scroll down just a bit, that is going to track pretty closely with the current zoning, and shows the area for residential infill. However, with new ownership, and this is a new buyer who's just purchased this property, they are requesting that change, and that's shown here on this map that's currently up. Across the road, they have the business. It's Blacktop Studios, where they restore classic cars. Pretty amazing. And then the other business, a big factory site across the road. This gentleman who owns it, you know, doesn't have to tell us what he wants to do, but he has to find something that would fit in with the zoning if it is approved under general business. Now, there have been some concerns from neighbors. These are the neighbors who live off of Cleet York Road, which is currently a gravel road, and some neighbors who are off on Stones Throw Drive. Those are kind of the areas, you know, Stones Throw is here, and this is Cleet York. His businesses would focus down at the road and not, you know, they're not like the deeper parts of that track. When we were kind of analyzing why we would be supportive of a request like this, we noted the sort of the uses in the area being commercial, and that we have quite a lot of activity on Drexel Road already, plus Morganton Furniture Road. These are tracks that front on that. We're so close to I-40, and we just see an opportunity here to maybe do some things down by the interstate there. Anything that is non-residential development must go through a site development plan, so we'll review any kind of driveways and curb cuts with our DOT partners and make sure it meets all of our requirements for Burke County for taking into roads traffic, residential buffers, and any kind of land use. The planning board did meet in September. They reviewed this, and they had quite a bit of public comment. Folks from the neighborhood came down, and they had concern about changing that zoning. And I think their public comment went on for about 30 minutes or more, which is, for a planning board, it's a long time. They felt like they heard enough of the information and concern, and they closed that comment period. And when the chairman asked for a decision, the board recommended approval, 5-0. So that's what it's coming to you all with, a 5-0 recommendation of approval. Now we'll have a hearing, I guess, in our next meeting, you know, our proper date, and we'll bring this item then. But I can answer any questions if you have anything now.
Thank you, Alan. Gentlemen, questions, comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm kind of curious as to what the neighbors are complaining about, number one. Number two, the proposed use and I know they have to put down something, but jumping from retail to a restaurant, to mini storage, to craft beer, to a distillery, that's a wide range of things to do. Is this gentleman kind of decided on what he wants to do? Is that what the neighbors are upset about because they think there's going to be a retail, some kind of retail in the restaurant, or is it the distillery and the craft beer, and the mini storage?
Well, we don't have conditional zoning here, which would mean we get to know what he's going to do. We just have district zoning. But he has talked about both those uses, having maybe a brewery on the smaller track and maybe using that front corner piece for mini storage. But as of this point, we don't have a site plan or anything to review. He's going to be waiting until there's a zoning, if the zoning does get approved, he'll bring that forward. I can't really press him on those details. But I do think the folks, what they expressed at the planning board meeting was potential noise traveling up, up the mountain to where they live, I think, and maybe some traffic concerns.
No more questions.
Gentlemen, any other questions?
Thank you.
Alan, thank you. And while you're there, let's not move on to item, gentlemen, without objection, this item will remain on the agenda under scheduled public hearings, and we'll move on to item number 2. Once again, Alan, another zoning map amendment, ZMA 2023-09.
Thank you very much. This is in the far east corner of Burke County. It's Airport Road His Road, so it's quite a ways up there. We have 3 different property owners who are requesting rezoning today. Today, the properties are zoned residentially, and they're asking for general business. Now, 2 of the properties, it turns out, have been, that's a business, an upholstery business, and that's a business, a used tire business, and this in the past has been used as a commercial use. Apparently the zoning was never anything but residential. So there's a lady who has purchased this and like to move a home builder, renovation, property management business to this site. And then in consulting with staff, we realized there's other non-residential uses there. We asked her to reach out to them to try to bring them into compliance with zoning. And so that's kind of like, we bring you today 3 different requests, 2 of which are existing businesses on site. So this would kind of create a node here in the county and sort of get these folks into a zoning category that allow them to expand in the future if they ever wanted to, and just bring them into kind of general compliance with their underlying land use. Now the parcel that's, just 1 second on that. This is a very long track here, and this is where the tire business is. We're proposing to just rezone the front part, give about 1.5 acres of that larger track. So when you have a zoning change, of course, right today we have a business use happening here, but if it expanded back, if it was commercially zoned, they could move all the way to the back. We've got neighborhoods here. We would like to just sort of provide some kind of a buffer for them and sort of maintain and contain the commercial, that sort of non-residential use at the front of the track. Current zoning of that area is a residential, different types of residential. Of course, Airport Road, His Road has all kinds of uses on it, many commercial uses, non-residential uses, lots of residences as well. So it's a kind of a rural corner of the county that's always had a lot of business activity up there because it's a local collector, for that part of the county. Similar thing with the future land use map, kind of follows the lake focus. And so actually the lake focus anticipates a lot of different land uses in that area. So if you all chose to support the zoning change, I don't believe we have to do anything with the future land use map, because the future land use map is anticipating a number of different types of land uses. from residential to non-residential uses. So we're kind of compliant with that. The planning board met on September 28th to review the proposal, and no one came to speak to the matter, and the planning board voted to support and recommend a zoning change to you all with a vote of 5-0. So that's what we're reviewing now. I can answer any questions about this one. It's a little different in that residential zoning with a lot of commercial activity happening already.
Thank you, Alan. Gentlemen, questions, comments? This one has a lot of moving parts. I'll give everybody a minute or two to see if they have a question. Alan, let's wait just a minute.
We might have photos on this one too. I believe there could be photos. There's just it's a lot of different kind of lots of buildings to see out there. There's a lot of structures, some metal buildings.
What was the former business? You know? It may
In a
not
few
be.
years, I'd heard it, and I'll make sure I know. I forget what was in there. Yeah, new owner though. The new owner, she's bringing a business from Caldwell County down here. So she found that property. We were interested in trying to make it work for her, especially since it's a residentially focused type of business. Building houses, renovating, property management.
Gentlemen? We good? All right, you did a great job. Alan, thank you. Gentlemen, without objection, this item will remain on the agenda for scheduled public hearings. That'll bring us to item number 5, section 5, consent agenda. Item number 1, Burke County Public Schools. Keith Lawson, our good friend, has been waiting patiently. Presentation of financial data for period ending September 30th, 2023.
Good afternoon, my county friends. Pleasure to be before you today to present the first quarter report for Burke County Public Schools. I'll be briefer than I historically have been today, but I'll certainly at the end be happy to entertain any questions you may have. This slide, which you're all very familiar with, just the numbers change. You can see the first two columns represents our annual anticipated revenues in comparison to the previous year. The two columns to the right under the September year-to-date obviously are our first quarter financials. As you can see, state funds, we're lagging slightly behind at this point as compared to last year. As you know, we received the state budget again a little late. We were able to implement wage increases and retro payments back to July 1 in October, so we expect this line item to come back into line as we enter or operate in the second quarter. Next, we have our federal funding. That consists primarily of ESSER, or otherwise known as COVID money. You can see that there's a significant increase there in comparison to the previous year. That's the result of several ESSER projects that were completed over the course of the summer and paid for, primarily HVAC projects and also several learning loss programs within the school system. I'll point out, while I'm referencing ESSER funding, Burke County Public Schools over the course of the 3 years, and it'll expire in September of next year, received approximately $45 million in ESSER funds. A great deal of security was put into place. A lot of learning loss programs were activated, and a lot of HVAC systems were undertaken. As far as 115 school systems in the state of North Carolina, Burke County ranks second in the state in ESSER utilization, only behind Mitchell County. Next, local revenue. You can see local, charter schools, and fines and forfeitures are all funds provided by you or through you. You can see a significant increase there on local. That's thanks to the newfound partnership between you all and the Board of Education. We very much appreciate the increased funding, and we'll see that bumped yet again, hopefully, as later on will be presented by Mr. Epley. Our Board of Education at last night's board meeting did approve as one of their high priority objectives, as it is for you all as well, to restore teacher supplements. Then special revenues, the last line item, and that is our Fund 8 special revenues. It contains things like our pre-K programs, tuition, device fees. You can see it's up significantly. I think that's due to the fact that COVID, in most folks' minds, I think is behind us now. Although it's not over, and I don't think it's ever going to be totally eradicated. But we are self-insured with vision and dental plan, as well as our health flex card plans. And we've seen a lot of heavy usage in the first quarter where people are front-loading and doing things such as braces and major items like that. So we expect that also to come back into line. This year, we're paying 10 charter schools for 608 students. One thing that was interesting on the charter school front is we pay 3 virtual charter schools. State law had limited virtual charter school funding to $790 per student until this year. They lifted that cap and they receive full local brick and mortar funding just as any other charter, which perplexes me just a bit. Maybe I'm getting off topic, and this, is a discussion to be had more with the board than you all, but just to make you aware, at the state level, that was lifted, and we all have agreed that maybe in higher education, virtual learning works, but in K-12, students aren't at the level of maturity and such to learn this way. Well, they've increased the funding to virtual charter schools. Go figure. That being said, the slide 2 is only a slight more detailed look at all of our local funding. I'd be happy to cover that if you wish. If not, I'll be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you, Keith. Gentlemen, questions, comments? The state keeps taking away, we keep trying to give more, so.
Yes, we do appreciate
Never
your
ending
help,
battle.
very much so.
Absolutely. Keith, thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda. That brings us to item number 2. This will be presented by our friend Monica Arney, the Western Piedmont Community College Controller. Presentation of financial data for the period ending September 30th, 2023. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you guys? Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to present the current financial position of Western Piedmont Community College. First, I'd like to share a recap of fiscal year 2023. We spent 96% of our state budget. The remaining 4% contained many allocations that were eligible for carry forward, such as basic skills, $74,000, apprenticeship funds, $267,000, child care, and a few other additional grants. We originally received $1.1 million in budget stabilization funds. We used all of that except for $91,000, and that'll be used in this current year, fiscal year 2024. For county funds, we did spend 111% of our budget. However, that was expected from the previous years, and we have an available fund balance to cover that. Now, a brief summary of our finances through September 30th, 2023, which was the first quarter of our fiscal year. On state funds, just as Keith mentioned, the state budget was not enacted until October of 2023. So this first quarter shows very few budget line items right now. We did spend $3,650,000, which is consistent with previous years. The next 3 columns in light blue represent the county budget and the actual expenses through September 30th. Our current budget is $2,905,000 for operations. We have received $730,000 of our budget, and spent $719,000 through the first quarter, which was 24.7%. The final three columns show our institutional budget, which is $6.1 million. That includes categories such as student financial aid, grants, self-supporting courses, and our bookstore. This is slightly less than the last year. We used all of the remaining funds from our COVID relief packages. However, we did receive a new 5-year Title III grant that was effective October the 1st, 2023. That's for just over $2 million. Student aid and our bookstore account for about 82% of all expenses in our institutional funds. The total combined college budget will be updated in our next report after the state budget has been processed. Now on the next slide, we have a breakdown of the expenditure categories for county. The major expenses include salaries and benefits at 26%, utilities at 22.8%, and contracted services at 10.6%. Also, right now, our insurance is at 18%, but we pay all of our premiums annually, so that amount percentage will decrease as we move forward in proportion to the other expenses. A few other general items I'd like to share with you about the college. The Regional Skilled Trade Solutions Center has just opened in fall semester. We have about 27 students in the program right now. Thank you to all the commissioners who were able to attend the opening ceremony. We had an overall increase in our full-time equivalency of students of about 7% in the summer, and we're up 4% this fall semester. Our on-site SACS COC visit was completed in October. The committee had no suggestions or recommendations for the core requirements and only 2 minor suggestions for the quality enhancement plan. And that concludes our presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Monica. Gentlemen, questions, comments?
I'm curious again, how many females and males in the construction programs?
I am not certain of the breakdown. I believe it is primarily male, but we do have some females.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I can get Joel to furnish that. I can get you the numbers.
Yes.
Absolutely. And the skills trades, how many do we have in there at this point?
How many students?
How many students?
Right now we have 27 full-time students.
27. And the capacity, remind me what the capacity is on that. You were
I believe capacity is around 60.
I was thinking that was the number.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we're up substantially from last year. We had only about 8 to 10 last year. So we're hoping that with the physical building, actually there and us being able to utilize that the program will continue to grow.
Ivan? Well, go ahead.
Are we going to try to track these students when they leave, now that the programs are established, to see what happens when they go to the community, if they stay in the community?
Yes, sir, as much as possible. We are looking to track our graduates in a lot of programs and see what kind of impact that we're having.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments, gentlemen? Well, as always, I commend the staff in the college because getting that clean a report on the SACS COC, that's extremely exciting with 2 minor findings. That's pretty much unheard of. And so I can speak as a trustee and say, we appreciate all the hard work and hundreds of hours that go that we don't see done behind the scenes. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, gentlemen, without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda. That'll bring us to item number 3 on our consent agenda. Resolution in support of Amtrak passenger rail presented by Chris White and Western North Carolina Rail Committee member. How are you, sir?
Hello, gentlemen. Good. How are you?
Heard you had an emergency, so I wasn't sure you were going to be able
Oh
to make
yeah,
it.
it's been a day.
Okay. Well, thanks for being
able to
here.
Make it, so. Yeah, so I bring before you a resolution to support the addition of Amtrak passenger service to Western North Carolina that would run the Norfolk Southern S line from Salisbury to Asheville, which runs through Morganton. In this resolution, passengers would ride a train all the way from Asheville to Raleigh, Charlotte beyond, including New York, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Chicago, New Orleans, Birmingham, Knoxville. It's really endless. It really connects Western North Carolina to the rest of the country via rail. So there was a study done, and so the study determined that the best resolution would be for trains to operate between Salisbury and Asheville would be 3 a day, 3 each way, 3 leaving Salisbury running west, 3 running from Asheville headed east daily. And it's a 139-mile round trip, 37 miles per hour would be the average speed, and that's where a lot of the money's going to come in from the Federal Rail Administration we'll talk about, is because to bring the line up to be able to meet that average speed, there's going to have to be upgrades to the line, including positive train control, which is required now for passenger rail. It's a 4-hour trip from Salisbury to Asheville, 6.75 hours from Raleigh, and the train is initially going to consist of a locomotive, 2 coach cars, and then 1 combo car that has a coach and the luggage on it. So alternate 3 was what the study showed. It would be 139 miles round trip, average speed 37 miles per hour, 214 miles total distance. The study showed the ridership over a 4-day period would be 6,100 folks, and with a revenue of $171,000. So the average revenue per passenger would be around 13 cents. Operating cost is $1.46 million, and the passenger revenue is $171,000 out of that. So the final study was capital cost would be $665 million to upgrade the line, and the majority of that money coming from the Federal Rail Administration grant that's put forth by the nation, by the U.S. government. Annual operating cost $7.3 to $10 million because you got to do upkeep and stuff like this. And these would be all new cars that they're going to have to purchase to fulfill this route. North Carolina DOT again has asked the Federal Rail Administration include Salisbury to Asheville corridor for funding their rail identification program. And the big thing about this is they believe rail would reduce the traffic and some of the traffic congestion along I-40 by 2045. So in this resolution, we're asking for the county support to restore rail as an integral part of transportation to the communities of Valdez and Morganton, with three round trips daily, which would be 6 trains, 3 west, 3 east. Congress passed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. It will, if approved by the Federal Rail Administration, will locate 80% of the funding with state funds and then the local match of 20%. Most of that 20% is going to come into throwing the money into the local stations like the Morganton station there to bring them up to code to where passengers can freely get on and off and stuff like that. Ours is pretty good. Some of the other passenger stations, for instance, Statesville, the police department is actually in that building now, so there'd have to be other stipulations there. So, but that's where most of the 20% would come in from the local. Construction estimated $665 million. That's to upgrade the rail line with rails that can hold the higher speed. Currently, they can't go over 45 miles per hour out there on the S line right now. With an annual operating cost of $7.3 to $10 million. So the resolution here, I've just basically listed what's in the resolution. Applaud the state of North Carolina for developing comprehensive intercity rail and urban jurisdictions through the state, and recognize that Asheville, Western North Carolina have been without passenger rail since 1975. There's a vital need to provide a strong and balanced transportation system that promotes both freight and passenger service. Currently, we only have 1 freight train that's running through here now daily, and that's in the night time from Asheville to Hickory and then back. An increase in state funding for passenger rail service in North Carolina. It's necessary to connect small urban and rural areas of the state with urbanized centers of our state, and then support the local state elected officials is essential for the future of alternative Transportation, Western North Carolina. It would support the utilization of transportation improvements, which is funded by the FRA to speed the creation of additional rail passenger routes across the country, and is supported by business and commercial interests as well. The resolution expresses 30-plus years of unified support of communities and chambers of commerce throughout Western North Carolina for increased statewide funding for bus and rail service, rail linkage between vital communities and regions within North Carolina to establish and strengthen social, historical, commercial, and cultural bonds, and the average investment in this average return on investment for the surrounding community for the station revitalizations throughout North Carolina, which would be more than $1 for every dollar that the local government invests in this, and that is demonstrated in Salisbury, Morgan, Marion, Old Fort, and Asheville. They didn't include Valdez in this because Valdez doesn't have a station any longer. It was tore down some time ago. Improvements of rail facilities have increased in efficiency and the safety of rail service, helped to attract new freight traffic, and provided environmental benefits by reducing the impact of traffic congestion, particularly along I-40. Enhance the accessibility and reliability for citizens, tourists, and business in the Western North Carolina extension, entire state. I think this would work really well with the Chambers bus tours that they were talking about earlier. Be able to get on a train, come here and ride, and then jump on a bus and go see the rest of the world of our end of the country. So the NC Department of Transportation Rail Division has agreed to manage subjective to legislative appropriation, the contract development and implementation of Amtrak from Salisbury to Asheville. And the Western North Carolina Rail Committee stands ready and committed to work with local communities to effectively market passenger rail service to Western North Carolina, provide local assistance and services as appropriate to help to make these a long-term success. So it will show by agreeing to this resolution, it'll show Burke County would fully support the creation of an attractive, marketable, and cost-effective rail connection service for Western North Carolina, which includes funding by the Federal Rail Administration, North Carolina General Assembly, with financial participation from local governments and economic entities for the proposed Amtrak rail service between Asheville and Salisbury.
Quite a mouthful.
That is. That's what I have.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Gentlemen, questions, comments?
The cost on that, I think it was $7.5 to $10.5 million.
Annually, is that the one you're talking
Yes,
about?
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is that local, federal, state, or everybody put together on that? That's
It would be coming from the
completely
state.
state.
The DOT will fund that, yes, sir.
Is that in addition to what Norfolk Southern is going to provide on that for rail upkeep or anything, or is that just a?
I don't know. I don't know that.
And I guess that will include rail upkeep and the cost of the cars, and salaries for
Norfolk
employees.
Southern would be doing the upkeep on the line. Amtrak would just lease the space from Norfolk Southern.
Thank you, sir.
If you can go back to that last slide, I got a question or two.
This one?
Yeah, they agree. I would, certainly, I'd love to see some rail back in here, but when I look at, which includes funding by the Federal Railroad Administration and North Carolina General Assembly, how long can we expect that to happen, or do you have a clue how long that will happen? And then it says financial participation from local governments. Is that local government Burke County, or is that Valdez, or is that Morganton, since that's where the stops are going to be? We've got three different players in this thing. We got Norfolk Southern, we got Amtrak, and we got, what was the other one? Somebody else.
Amtrak, Norfolk Southern, and State DOT, I guess.
Okay, a lot of players in this. I know it's been thought out, and we're here to support it through a resolution, but, people talk about resolutions not being worth, this could be worth something, but there's a lot of questions. I think we're talking about a lot of money that's going to go out there. What guarantee we got is that FRA and the General Assembly is going to continue to supply this money. And looks like it's gonna be a loss leader up front because there's not, a lot of people will be riding, but it'll be running at a deficit for a while.
It does look
Am
like,
am I seeing that correctly?
that's correct. It does look like that. It would run deficit for a little while before it would overcome that by 2045 is what the study showed.
2045.
Yes, sir.
So we've got a lot of people that want to ride between Salisbury. You know, we go to Raleigh a lot. It'd be kind of nice to, you know, take a train to Raleigh. I can't see sitting 6 3/4 hours on a train to get to Raleigh. So we're not looking at any high speed, anything else, no changing the tracks, no.
They are going to be changing the tracks and upgrading. Most of the speeds would go up to 60 miles per hour, but the average speed with the stops and everything would be 37 miles per hour, just calculating it all in. And then what would happen is you would ride from Asheville, get off at Salisbury, and then tie in with that Piedmont, Carolinian, and ride to Raleigh or Charlotte from there on that train. So these trains would only operate between Salisbury and Asheville.
So would I be wrong to say that I'm looking at this more as like a day trip, a tourism trip, more than any? Is that what
It could be, but they did a Amtrak through-rate bus service that actually showed the ridership was more. And I don't have those numbers with me. I don't have a clue what to even elaborate on them, but they said it was a very positive outcome from that and stuff. So
Okay, I'm going to close by saying I'd really like to support this with the resolution, but I got a lot of questions. Okay. I'm done.
And I agree with you on that. Nobody likes trains and railroads more than I let it sit on my back porch and not hear the railroad whistles out there. But and I think you had a slide up there that said it would take 6,100 vehicles off Interstate 40 or something like that.
That's an estimate, yeah.
That's not many. You get up, you pay 6,100 between Morganton and Hickory.
Right.
Any other questions? You know, with this, you know, we're talking about years down the road too. So a resolution, you know, and I've got the same questions these gentlemen have too. But, you know, I'm all about supporting it. But,
Yeah.
you know, as far as commitment of money, been asked about it before, is all smoke and mirrors at this point.
right.
Because, you know, this is a resolution to show that we want it. So
Yeah.
I want to correct you. This, you know, I want everybody to hear, obviously, this isn't for us to commit anything. And, you know, honestly, by the time this comes to fruition, none of us will be sitting here anyway. We'll be doing other things or somewhere else, period. I hate to say it, but,
Yeah, you're right.
you know, honestly, the people that will be making those decisions will not be us at that point. So, you-
Yeah, we're looking 7 to 10 years down the road probably
Sure.
before it even gets off the ground.
Absolutely. Not wishing anybody's demise, I'm talking about doing other things, by the way. Just make that clear to everybody. But I think everybody up here wants to support it. Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Gentlemen? We want this to remain on the consent agenda without objection?
I have no problem with it remaining on, you know. As we sit here, you know, many resolutions wind up in the old resolution drawer over there and they never go anywhere. But I'd like to really support this if I could, but I've just not seen that, but I will support it.
Okay. Once again, it doesn't commit us, but it does show that we're excited about the project and the possibility. We just need numbers at some point. But like I said, those numbers probably won't be presented to us in any means anytime soon, or they'll be presented to somebody else. Okay, gentlemen, without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda. That brings us to item number 4. Madam Clerk, reappointments to the Council on Aging.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a request to reappoint Joseph Taylor, seat number 3, Maxine Childress, seat 4, and Kimberly Wilson, seat 10, on the Council of Aging for 3-year terms ending November 30th, 2026.
Questions, comments, gentlemen? Then without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda. That brings us to item number 5, approval of budget amendment number 3. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
This is a budget amendment for consideration that, first and foremost, doesn't appropriate additional dollars. This is simply two components that structurally move already budgeted funds and part of the original ordinance from one area to another area of higher need so that we can functionally move two projects forward. The first one is, at your last meeting, we unanimously awarded an RFQ contract to remobilize for the Jones Ridge project. We've moved through the negotiation process, and in order to fill the gap to remobilize that contractor, we need to designate some unreserved capital dollars to the project ordinance for that, to fully issue that notice to proceed. And the second component is to be compliant with the new, there's a new GASB standard, GASB 87, that deals specifically with leases. GASB is an acronym that stands for the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, and this is to account for the ambulance lease that we discussed. First originally during our budget process, and then back at our previous meeting as well. So neither are doing anything other than structurally moving budgeted resources from one fund to the appropriate account. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Gentlemen, questions, comments? Then without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Thank you, Mr. County Manager. That'll bring us to item number 6 under consent agenda, resolution approving road name of Briar Creek Road. This will be presented by Scott Black.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So this is a follow-up to our last month's item where we named the road, and now we are sending a resolution to the State Board of Transportation to get them to approve applying this name to the secondary road, and for SR 2541, which is a portion of the road that we named last month.
Thank you, Scott. Gentlemen, questions, comments? Thank you, sir. Then without objection, gentlemen, this item will remain on the consent agenda. That brings us to tax department reports, for the first one being release refund report for October 2023. Mr. John Bridgers, how are you, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm doing well. I hope you and the members of the board are as well. Tax refund and release report. Report total was $285,433.44. Rebuild amount was $87,546.43 with a net release of $197,888.01 with $0 refunded. The NCVTS refunds over $100. We had one refund for $120.70. Any questions?
Questions, comments? Give me just a second to look that over, see if they have any questions, John.
John, can you shed any light on who Blue Ridge is? What's that? There's lots of Blue Ridges in this neighborhood.
That is the hospital, Blue Ridge Healthcare.
It looks like on the church, we probably send them a tax bill and they have to process the paperwork.
Yeah, that's right.
Be taxed again.
Yeah, not all of the hospital is tax exempt. Some of the facilities like the pharmacy and some of the doctor's offices are not, but this was getting everything as it should be.
John, what is that last one on the last page? Just for clarity, I'm trying to understand that one. It says refund reason military.
Which one, what one you're looking at?
Is that what that is?
The VPS, yeah, that was military. No, that's automobile.
Thank you. Gentlemen, any other questions on this specific report? All right, there being none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. That'll bring us to tax collection report for October 2023. Please, sir.
For the collection report, this is from July 1 of 2023 to October 31, 2023. We have collected for property tax $36,919,133.89. That is 70.06% of the budget amount, with $15,780,433.11 yet to be collected. Motor vehicle tax, we have collected $1,982,977.13. That is 31.98% of the budget amount, leaving a balance to collect of $4,217,002.87. Current year taxes, we've collected $38,902,131.02, which is 66.05% of the budget amount, leaving a balance to collect of $19,997,445.98. Delinquent taxes, we have collected $372,605.56, which is 53.23% of the budget amount, leaving a balance to collect of $327,394.44. Late list penalties, we have collected $111,035.97, which is 33.75% of the budget amount, leaving a balance to collect of $217,964.03. For the overall levy, we have collected $36,919,133.89, which is 68.59% of the budget amount, with a balance to collect of $16,907,092.21.
Thank you, John. Gentlemen, questions on tax collection report? Don't believe there are any. John, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I would like to say that the better we do collecting taxes on the front end, the harder it is to collect the delinquent taxes and late listing on the back end.
Thank you. Gentlemen, without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda. That'll bring us to section 6. Item number 1 under items for decision, approval of budget amendment number 4, and this will be presented by our county manager, Brian Epley. Please, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. So at the conclusion, the item for consideration is a budget amendment that, similar to the Jonas Ridge and the other mechanical as part of number 4, really is not an additional appropriation or a change to the original ordinance, but a slew of moderately sophisticated mechanical changes to help facilitate the board policy for education funding and the most recent legislative changes. So I'll walk through what those changes are, simply because of the complexity and the point of emphasis that this board's had on this change. I would point out that you've really been talking about this since your work session back in March, and both under the community advancement and the economic development focus area with workforce development, public education and promotion and support have been two of your really again high points of emphasis. And I would consider that the 3 goals as we headed into the budget season were to provide more competitive operational funding, and look for ways to provide additional dedicated funding for teacher supplements, and also looking at ratios. So what I'll quickly do, and I'll cover this quickly today, but certainly more in depth in 2 weeks, is what are our responsibilities as a local government in North Carolina to public education funding? What does our current funding look like? Why are we now required to make these changes to facilitate these legislative corrections? And then what will that mechanically look like inside our budget? I point out that really public education funding is a constitutional provision. As we all know, the state of North Carolina is ultimately responsible for administering public education, but they did, as a political subdivision of the state, delegate a local funding arm to counties. And that was further really expounded upon in 1997 with the Supreme Court case that highlighted the critical requirement for county funding. When we originally started the budget process, our original question became, from a functional perspective, as a proportional share of our budget, why we looked a little bit different than some of our other comparative peer benchmarks. And as we delved into that a little bit more, what we saw was that really we had to better understand this difference between total funding, which was robust and highly competitive, versus operational cash flow. And those two did not really synchronize. As far as total allocation and total funding to public education in Burke County, this board and this organization had been one of the, really done a tremendous job. But those dollars were being put in a place that weren't able to be funded or applied to top priorities. And so that's where we started really taking a better look to better understand what that was and why our local funding was less than competitive, and specifically, what the cause and effect of that was. That ultimately what we've discovered was this high level of funding on the capital side that was restricted via legislation and regulation, but lacking on the operational side, which led to things like less than competitive supplements, higher than average ratios, and the approach that was taken during the budget was to begin to change that narrative. I'm very pleased that the board supported about a $2.2 million cash flow increase on the current expense side that certainly helped accomplish some of the goals that you all set. And ultimately that was about a about a 9%, it's about a 13% total increase in funding. And on a per pupil basis, that was about 9%. To guide us to that $2.2 million increase raised our per pupil allocation to about $1,541. So the question of why was the structural components of the budget aligned that way, ultimately we uncovered this 1983 and 1985 local legislation which provided those restrictions. That was further complicated in 2005, 2008, 2009 with these litigation processes and these consent orders. And ultimately, we felt like those were what were hamstringing and handcuffing both the county commissioners and the school board from being able to place your resources in your highest areas of priority. Fast forward to September the 8th, as you're all well aware, in joint session, the school board and the county commissioners adopted this joint resolution, which ultimately led to a October 25th ratification of what was originally Senate Bill 68 that ultimately after ratification became Session Law 143. In essence, all of those changes simply made us in Burke County more similar to the other counties in North Carolina. It removed some of the unnecessary oversight and regulatory confinements that didn't allow this board to place resources in your areas where your strategic goals led. And most simply, I think it transferred control and decision-making from state law and consent orders in the judicial process back to local leaders. And so in order to fully execute on that, we have this budget amendment that's in front of you for consideration. There's a lot of moving parts in it, but I would tell you fundamentally it does three things. Number one, it changes our internal workings of our budget to align with North Carolina statute, specifically for sales tax where those dollars are receipted. Secondly, it consolidates what is currently two school funds, a 1 cent fund and a half-cent fund, into one singular public school capital reserve fund. I will point out that the beginning fund balance available equity as of July 1st, 2023 was about $37.5 million. And those dollars will remain committed for school capital as they were originally received under the old legislation. And then lastly, this budget amendment increases the current expense budget by an additional $1.5 million. That's roughly 8%. That does two things. One, it covers the loss in the school's budget for low wealth funding, but simultaneously it funds the teacher supplement reestablishment that Mr. Lawson mentioned earlier, as I recall, was approximately a $1.48 million cost. That I think again accomplishes the strategic goal of this board, and makes us more competitive for recruitment and retention. So in 2 weeks, we'll be asking you all to consider budget amendment number 4. That again has a lot of moving parts, but fundamentally I think the thing to remember is that it simply does these 3 things. Aligns us, like other counties in North Carolina, consolidates those 2 funds into one fund, and then funds teacher supplements moving forward. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on that moderately complicated issue.
Thank you, Brian. I know we've been working on this for some time, been in this presentation many times. Gentlemen, any questions, comments today? All right. Thank you, Mr. County Manager. Gentlemen, without objection, this item will remain under items for decision. That'll bring us to item number 2, clerk appointments to the East Burke Senior Advisory Council. Madam Kay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a request to make some removals to the East Burke Senior Center Advisory Councils and to appoint someone to fill seat number 1 at large for a 3-year term ending May 31st, 2026. Appoint someone to seat 3, which is an at-large 55 and older seat for the remainder of a 3-year term ending May 31st, 2025. For seat number 4, it's a request to either reappoint Karen Robinson to that seat or appoint someone new to that seat for a term ending May 31st, 2026, and then to appoint Rebecca Bova, the East Burke Senior Center Site Manager, to seat number 5, which is designated for the Senior Center Site Manager, to complete the remainder of a term ending May 31st, 2024.
Gentlemen, questions? Multiple moving parts on this one, so I'm just giving everybody a minute to, just in case they have a question. Let's see. Gentlemen, you good? All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, without objection, this item will remain on the items for decision. At this point, we move to Section 7, reports. I would ask everyone to submit your reports to the clerk ASAP for inclusion in the agenda packet. And I got a list of friendly reminders. On November 6th through 12th is Operation Greenlight, so please participate. On November 10th, county offices will be closed for Veterans Day. November 11th, Burke County Veterans Day event starts at 11 a.m. in the Ethic Building. And I will remind everybody, November 21st, our Board of Commissioners regular meeting at 6 p.m. And November 23rd and 24th, county offices closure for Thanksgiving. Probably Thanksgiving's here when it's 83 degrees outside or whatever. And just a quick reminder, all the good work that Animal Services is doing, I would please remind everyone to spay and neuter your pets, foster or adopt a pet from Burke County Animal Services. And as we always preach, please cover your loads of trash to the convenience centers and the landfill, and don't litter, and if you see trash, please pick it up. Gentlemen, do we have any other discussion items? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Commissioner Carswell. All those in favor signify with uplifted hand. That is 4-0, Madam Clerk. Great meeting, folks.